tried to silence him. They erased his name. But he rebuilt from nothing. He fought every algorithm. They tried again and failed. Now he's back, stronger. From blackout to spotlight, he's at the White House, at the top of his game. Franchi lives.
You are about to enter another dimension, the dimension of truth, unfiltered and uncensored. Welcome to the Raw Feed with Gary Franchi.
Welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, coming to you live from the heart of America. Unfiltered truth to millions on YouTube. Hit those donation links below. Every contribution powers our gear. Every contribution keeps the party going. Help me help you. Hit those donation links. YouTube channel memberships. Special acknowledgement in the fellowship. Your super chats keep me standing. Your Rumble rants fuel every round.
Say hello to super chats.
Spread the intel. Every repost extends our reach.
Super chats fuel this spectacle. Your Rumble rants give me strength.
24/7 members-only community, behind-the-scenes discussions.
Connect with fellow Patriots.
My mama always said, life is like sharing the truth. Text this stream to your friends.
What if I told you the app is real? Download the Next News Network app. Android users, take the Google Play path. iPhone users, App Store awaits.
And there we are. What's up, guys? Hope you had a wonderful Christmas break. I know I did. And I'm glad to be back in the saddle. Sorry for the late show. We're running some new systems and having some technical difficulties. But hey, we're back. We're live. And yeah, you know what today is, right? Well, 5 years ago today, Americans who questioned an election were branded insurrectionists, hunted by federal agents, and locked in cells while the media cheered. On this 5th anniversary, the same people who demanded their imprisonment are watching their own house of cards collapse in real time. Good evening, America. Welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, and this is the show where the news comes raw, unfiltered, and Christ-centered. We have a show that ties everything that they try to keep separate. Dictators in handcuffs, governors walking away, senators stripped of rank, fraud networks exposed, and machines preparing to replace the American worker. So buckle up. Remember, January 6, 2021, they called it an insurrection. They called the people who showed up domestic terrorists. They threw the book at grandmothers and veterans and first-time protesters. And for 4 years, those Americans sat in prisons while the very politicians lecturing about democracy looked the other way, as billions of taxpayer dollars disappeared into phantom daycares and shell organizations. President Trump ended that injustice on day one with sweeping pardons. And now, exactly 5 years later, the same accountability the establishment demanded for patriots is finally coming for the people who actually broke the law. We'll start with Venezuela because Nicolás Maduro, the narco-dictator who poisoned American streets with drugs and gave Iran and Hezbollah a foothold in our hemisphere, is no longer running anything. He's sitting in a detention center in Brooklyn after U.S. Special Forces pulled off one of the most precise military extractions in modern history. And what happened? The Biden administration, what did they do? They put a $25 million bounty on his head and did nothing. President Trump collected. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made it plain the Western Hemisphere is not for sale, not to China, not to Russia, and not to anyone. And then there's the rampant fraud sweeping our nation. 3 states bleeding America through coordinated fraud networks tied to NGOs, political operatives, and billions in federal funds. The FBI watched a restaurant in Minneapolis claim to feed thousands of children while only 40 people walked through the door. President Trump says he will not pay these states another dime until the theft stops, and he names names. That brings us to Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor, announcing he's dropping out of the 2026 race. Not because he wants to spend time with his family, because the walls are closing in. Federal investigators are circling. Independent journalists expose what legacy media refused to touch. And Walz, rather than face the fire, he walked the plank. He blamed white ring YouTubers on his way out. The president responded with 4 words. Well, actually 5, maybe 6. No one is above the law. Meanwhile, Senator Mark Kelly just found out what happens when you urge American troops to disobey the commander-in-chief. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, formally censured Kelly, stripped him of his retired Navy captain rank, and cut his pay. Kelly called it standing up for principle. The Pentagon called it sedition. The seditious 6 just became 5. And if all that were not enough, the robots are coming. Boston Dynamics announced its AI-powered humanoid Atlas is ready for mass production. 30,000 units this year. Every single one already committed for deployment. They're heading to Hyundai factories and Google DeepMind facilities. These machines do not follow scripts anymore. They learn, they adapt, and once they prove themselves on the factory floor, they won't stop there. The human era of labor is being phased out while most Americans are still arguing about politics. So 5 years ago today, they told you January 6th was the end of democracy. You'll see who the real threats always were. The dictators, the fraudsters, the senators urging mutiny, and the machines quietly taking position. This is the Raw Feed. No scripts, no filters, just the truth. Let's get into it and welcome you back to the show. Who is here today? James and Bills and Joseph and Johnny and Subi AZ22. Mrs. Podhead Kenny. Yeah, I saw that Capitol police officer that killed Ashley Babbitt's been running a fraudulent daycare. I saw that. Yeah. Unbelievable. Pothead Kenny in the house. Karen Hansen is here. Bobby Riesling, T. Duff, Johnny Hall, Tyson Curie, Brian Smith, James Sari, Elaine Walker, KZ, Joseph, Michael Favell. Everyone is here tonight. It's great to see you. Chino here too, and Barry Poor. Tony in Ohio checking in. All right. Brian, let's get into the show because we've got a lot of news to tackle, a lot of catching up to do. And I think, let's see here. Yeah, I think we should be good. All right. They told you it couldn't be done. They told you a sitting dictator with the backing of China, Russia, and Iran was untouchable. They told you the Western Hemisphere was lost. And then without warning, without apology, President Trump proved every single one of them wrong. Nicolás Maduro is no longer running Venezuela. He's sitting in a cell. And the people who said this day would never come are now scrambling to explain why they never wanted it to happen in the first place. So understand what's at stake here. Venezuela had become a narco state, a criminal enterprise dressed up as a government. Maduro was not just a dictator, he was indicted by the United States for drug trafficking. He opened his country to Hezbollah, to Iranian operatives, to Chinese mining interests, to Russian military advisors. Drugs, weapons, and foreign agents flowed north, while American families buried their children from fentanyl overdoses. The Biden administration put a $25 million bounty on Maduro and then did absolutely nothing. For years, our adversaries watched and they laughed. They carved up the hemisphere while Washington issued press releases. Well, that era is finally over. President Trump just showed the world that American red lines mean something again. Every cartel boss, every foreign operative, every dictator with American blood on their hands just got the message. As we step into 2026, uncertainty didn't end with the calendar turning over. It's the environment that we're living in now. Hoping things will settle down is not a strategy, it's a risk. And for over a decade, Noble Gold Investments has helped Americans protect what they have worked for by moving wealth into real tangible assets like gold and silver. Now, nobody knows what 2026 will bring, but history teaches us when confidence in systems fades, real health holds. Real wealth through physical is time-tested and it's yours. And the most valuable thing you can secure is peace of mind. And that's what Noble Gold delivers. Visit nextnewsgold.com for your free wealth protection kit because 2026 belongs to those who prepare. You can find the number on the screen, 877-646-5347, and operators are standing by. But here's where it gets interesting. You see, the operation was 100% surgical.
Target when the whole world is watching.
It was surgical. Special forces moved into Caracas with speed and precision. Maduro was extracted and delivered to American custody before the regime even knew what happened. Secretary Rubio confirmed there are no U.S. troops on the ground in Venezuela. This was not an invasion. This was law enforcement, and the administration made it clear. All operations and all options remain on the table until Venezuela expels Iranian influence, shuts down Hezbollah operations, and ends the drug pipeline. Meanwhile, Venezuelans across the hemisphere celebrated openly. In Panama, crowds cheered and waved flags. Refugees wept. For the first time in years, they have hope. What we're seeing here is a representation of the actual raid that took place.
We have the declassified timeline of how U.S. forces breached the heart of Caracas and extracted Nicolás Maduro. Let's start with step one, the setup. This didn't happen overnight. For months, the U.S. had been tightening a naval quarantine around Venezuela. The U.S. Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group and the U.S. Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group were parked off the coast. The pretext was clear. The U.S. designated the Venezuelan government a narco-terrorist state, specifically targeting the drugs lords, but while the Navy squeezed the coast, intelligence assets were tracking one man. They waited for a specific window, a moment where Maduro was stationary and vulnerable. Step 2, the strike. It began at exactly 2 a.m. Venezuelan Standard Time. High above, several F-35 stealth fighters punch a hole through the enemy lines, destabilizing their anti-air defenses. Like these Russian S-300 missiles located all over the strategic high-value target. With the skies cleared, the path opens for Delta Force helicopters to fly straight towards the mission. Here comes the deception as the helicopters flew. The jets started firing with more strikes as it hit Fort Tuna, the main military base and command center, and La Carlota Air Base, destabilizing Venezuelan air support. Reports from the ground described widespread explosions and a sudden communications blackout. The chaos wasn't the goal, it was the cover. But how did the raid happen? We have to look at step 3. Under the cover of darkness and chaos, the Tier 1 operators went to work. But what is the exact unit tasked with the mission? It is the Delta Force, one of the most elite secretive special forces units in the US military. Witnesses in Caracas reported low-flying aircraft skimming the rooftops, flying well below radar coverage. The team breached a secure compound believed to be a safe house within the massive Fort Tuna complex. Resistance from the Venezuelan Presidential Guard was swift but ultimately futile, as the helicopters lay cover fire. The operators moved with surgical speed, landing on multiple points. But how exactly the capture and extraction happened? For this, let's look at step 4. Specialized helicopters hovered over the objective to insert the assault team. While dozens of attack helicopters laid down suppression fire, the Delta Special Forces descended and started the search for the high-value targets. How did they find him? Simple. The CIA had planted spy inside Nicolás Maduro close circle. While back in the US, Delta Force built an exact replica of his safe house, rehearsing the raid until they could do it blindfolded. While operators breached the room so fast, his security could not even react to the situation as the sound of flash grenades disoriented the security guard. Using blowtorch, they caught him before he could even lock all the doors. Maduro's shock and awe froze him as Delta Force breached the compound. Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were physically secured. This wasn't a negotiation. They were detained and immediately moved to the extraction point. These aircraft are capable of performing urban extractions from buildings and refueling in midair. Within minutes, they were airborne, leaving Venezuelan airspace and heading to a secure floating staging base in the Caribbean. How do you capture a high-value target when the whole world is watching?
You know, it feels like a 1980s action movie. That's what it feels like. Absolutely amazing. Surgical precision. Not your average warlike action. President Trump says, I'm pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. The oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I've asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. Here we have this just in. Here is Pam Bondi discussing the arrest of Maduro on Fox Business.
Americans. With regards to the cocaine, President Trump knows, to make our economy great, we have to be safe in our country. And these narco-terrorists, which is what they are, they were importing hundreds of tons of cocaine into our country, killing our kids, killing countless thousands of Americans every single year. And Larry, don't forget, the Maduro emptied his prisons, he emptied insane asylums, and let those people come into our country during the last administration, and President Trump stopped it. Now he is sitting in the Southern District of New York, where he and his wife, Celia Maduro, will be held accountable for their crimes. This isn't just a drug dealer. He's a monster. He's a narco-terrorist, and she's also charged with 3 of the counts. Larry, they supplied these drug dealers with machine guns, with grenades, with everything to further their cocaine conspiracy and what they were doing around our country. They put hits on people, murders, kidnappings, assaults, anything on anyone who stood in their way. And no longer, President Trump is going to keep America safe, and that means locking up those 2 criminals. With regards to the cocaine,
America in action. Now, Rand Paul went on with Maria Bartiromo. He warned that regime change without Congress is presidential overreach. He says he has no love for Maduro, but the Constitution is clear. Congress decides when America goes to war. But the key distinction here, Senator Paul, is that this was not an act of war. This was a law enforcement operation to extract a criminal who had been already indicted. That's the key difference here.
Underplay. But first is this. Toppled Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro and his wife pled not guilty to narco-terrorism charges in a New York City courtroom yesterday. The 63-year-old dictator calling himself, quote, a prisoner of war and, quote, a decent man, telling the judge he and his wife were kidnapped from their home in Caracas. The Trump administration briefing lawmakers about Operation Absolute Resolve, leaving them largely split along party lines. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul reacted to the operation. Watch.
Apparently this attack's been under planning for 3 or 4 months, and so there's plenty of time to ask Congress's permission. I think it's disdainful, but I don't think he's the first president to do it. You can't say, oh, well, we're just arresting a criminal. They bombed half of Caracas and then removed him from that. And the argument that, oh, we had to have the shoulders to defend the people arresting him, well, we have a foreign leader in another country that was accused of killing an American journalist. Would that mean that people could swoop in on Saudi Arabia, bomb Riyadh, snatch MBS, and leave? Now there's rumblings of going into Colombia, rumblings of going into Cuba. This is something that is a presidential excess, and it is right and proper for Congress to debate it.
Well, I guess they can. That's what the floor is for. It is for debate. But President Trump has his own remarks. Here he is talking about Maduro.
Good job. At some point they should say, you did a great job. Thank you. Congratulations. Wouldn't it be good? I would say that if they did a good job. Their philosophies are so different. But if they did a good job, I'd be happy for the country. They've been after this guy for years and years and years. And, he's a violent guy. He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit. But he's a violent guy, and he's killed millions of people. He's tortured. They have a torture chamber in the middle of Caracas that they're closing up. But he's tortured people, and now what they do, the radical left, they actually have people, and it's hard to get them. They're all paid people. Most of these people are paid. They're paid when they have brand new, beautiful printed signs by like the highest quality printer, and you have a woman, free Maduro, and the sign is before we even did the attack. Free Maduro. Why do you want him freed? I don't know, but he should be free. Oh, she reads the sign. What does that say? It says free. Well, that's what I believe. At some point they should say, you did it.
The paid protesters, they certainly popped up quickly, didn't they? Here's more on that from the president.
By the way, Venezuela, everyone, they're marching in the streets. They love it, except in New York. Where they find these people? These people, they're not these people are a mess. I know it's not nice to say that. These people are a mess. Where do they find these people? They're the worst looking people I've ever seen. They got hats that are all frayed and they look like they're all paid. Mm-hmm. They don't even know what they're talking. When the reporters don't interview them because they know that it's, the press is so anti. It's hard to believe the press could be so anti because it's all common sense. It's not, we're conservative, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're all common sense people. It's not even conservative. It's common sense. But the press has no credibility whatsoever. Think of it. I got 97% bad stories on one network, 93% on the other, and I won in a landslide. You know what that means? The press has no credibility. By the way, Venezuela...
Of course they don't have any credibility. It's because we're replacing them. Here's a protester who's against the war in Venezuela, confronted with video of Venezuela celebrating.
And you should check out that communist flag over there.
What brings you out here today?
I'm organized with the Revolutionary Communists of America. We're out here to say hands off Venezuela. And we unequivocally stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialist aggression.
What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets? What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets today?
I saw images of Venezuelans being bombed after the U.S., bombed Caracas. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, I think you should definitely
show me the bombings that you're talking about. I didn't see any.
I don't know. I just saw it on Reddit. It was on the front page of the internet. So
okay.
I don't know.
But what do you think about the people celebrating? The hundreds of thousands of people that are in the streets celebrating.
I have yet to see it. Can you show me that?
Yeah.
Sure. U.S. imperialism.
People celebrating on the streets here. What do you think about that?
I mean, at the end of the day, I stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialism. The U.S. has no right to bomb the people of Venezuela. The U.S. has no right to kidnap another
Why
leader
are they
of
all
another.
Celebrating? Why are they celebrating?
I don't know. Do you have a correspondent there who can ask? I'm here demonstrating against. I'm here demonstrating against U.S. imperialism and the U.S. intervention.
Is this AI though? These images of everybody
I don't know.
celebrating?
You're the one showing me the video, so let me know. You're showing me the source. I don't know.
I don't think it's AI because it's being published by multiple news organizations. So just what are your thoughts on it?
I'm here protesting U.S. intervention,
I understand that.
U.S. imperialism, and U.S. capitalism. You should check out that.
Yeah, another perfect example there. President Trump referring to them specifically. Here's John Fetterman on Maduro.
Called the So Senator Chris Murphy, your Democratic colleague, called the operation wildly illegal. America doesn't want this war. Nobody asked for this. And I think the most important conversation to have is Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. Do you want to take this on?
I respect my friend in Connecticut, but we have different views on this and perhaps other views as well. I just said this on my social media that, remind everybody that America is a force of good, order, and democracy, and we are promoting these kinds of values. We are the good guys. Let's pretend that now we are acting in a way. Now, remember, we all Democrats years ago wanted to eliminate him, and why have a bounty of $25 million if we didn't want him gone? Why would you do these things if you weren't willing to actually do something other than harsh language?
So, Senator
Fetterman to the rescue again, setting the record straight. Let's take a look here. Here's more President Trump referring to the actions of the raid. This was 72 hours ago. What a whirlwind, though. Waking up to that news, that was freaking nuts.
Heading into New York.
Can you tell us where Maduro and his wife are right this second?
Well, they'll be heading to New York. They were indicted in New York, and also.
So are they taken to a ship first, and then?
Yes, to Iwo Jima. They're on a ship.
Okay.
But they'll be heading into New York. The helicopters took them out, and they went by helicopter in a nice flight. I'm sure they loved it. But they've killed a lot of people. Remember that they killed a lot of people, and
a lot of Americans.
Even people in their own country. They killed a lot of people to maintain power. He's a very vicious person.
Can you tell us where?
Very vicious person. Now sitting in a cell in New York with paid protesters out there supporting dictatorship. This is the moment that President Trump, you've probably seen this, announced the raid had taken place, and notably tired. Everyone I saw in the comments for these types of videos, everybody's like, yeah, Trump just looks tired. Well, think about what he just had done, right?
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas.
Now, with one correction here, I'd say it's a force not seen since the film Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
To bring outlaw dictator Nicolás Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. Late last night.
Yes. Certainly feels like an 80s action movie. Venezuelan orders a nationwide mobilization, has declared a state of emergency. This is 24 hours ago. Some of the protest signs that popped up immediately protesting the war on Venezuela. Stop the bombings. Yeah, they're done. The bombings are over, guys. It was a quick in and out action. U.S. Ambassador Walz justifying the actions. This is 24 hours ago.
As Secretary, Nicolás Maduro is responsible for attack.
This is at the United Nations.
On the people of the United States for destabilizing the Western Hemisphere and illegitimately repressing the people of Venezuela. As Secretary Rubio has said, there is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco trafficker who is now going to stand trial in the United States in accordance with the rule of law for the crimes he's committed against our people for 15 years.
15 years this has been going on. 15 years, finally coming to an end. Venezuelan women in California, so happy about the news. We've been in jail for so many years. He controlled everything. We cry because now somebody did something. This president is the first president that did something. This is hope, they're saying. Laura Logan making note as well. These people did not have to be paid. Yeah, these are not the paid protesters. These are the people waving Venezuelan flags and celebrating the capture of Maduro. They didn't need some AstroTurf money from George Soros to show up. They just needed their heart and their soul to be freed. And that's what President Trump did. President Trump rightly spotlighting the heartbreaking murder of Jocelyn Nungary by illegal aliens tied to Tren de Aragua. Removing Maduro from power will save countless lives and serve as a warning to think twice when targeting Americans. These are the consequences of narco states.
Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungary, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States. Americans like 12.
The consequences are real, and families have been feeling the pain for far too long. Let's jump to Marco Rubio 48 hours ago.
We retain all the options we had before this raid and this capture and this arrest was made. We continue. The quarantine is in place right now. If you are a sanctioned boat and you are headed towards Venezuela, you will be seized either on the way in or on the way out with a court order that we get from judges in the United States. We will continue to enforce our sanctions. And that is going to continue to happen until such time as changes are made. I cannot overstate how crippling this is for their future. On the other hand, there's an alternative to that. And here's the alternative. And that is an oil industry that actually benefits the people, that actually goes to the benefit, not of people, of the people, not just 2 or 3 or 5 people who are stealing it, and certainly not to Iran or any of the other sanctioned entities that we're going after. We retain.
Yeah. this is a big deal. Rapid response calling Chris Murphy a buffoon. Chris Murphy says, to the invasion of Venezuela has nothing to do with American security. Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. The president's rapid response account, tell that to the families of the innocent Americans brutally murdered by gang members and the regime imported here, or the drugs they trafficked here. You are sick.
Foreign policy is Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. There is no terrorist group like Al-Qaeda operating there that has plans.
Okay, see, he's wrong on his face, because the group has been designated a terrorist organization. So he's just flat out lying to the American people right here on CNN, of course.
To attack the United States to the extent that you care about the drug trade. Yes, they produce drugs, but those drugs go to Europe. Fentanyl is...
Oh, really? They just go to Europe. Okay, so none of it ends up here? Sure.
The drug that's killing Americans, that's not coming from Venezuela. Venezuela produces cocaine. 90% of it is not coming to the United States. This seems to be mostly about oil and natural resources. Donald Trump...
Well, that too. I mean, there were crimes there when Maduro seized all of the U.S. infrastructure that was created. Okay, so there's a twofold element here. You got the drug problem, and then you've got the seizure of the U.S. oil interests.
Trump's entire foreign policy is corrupt. Russia, the Middle East, and now Venezuela is all about making money for his friends. And Wall Street, the oil industry, they can make a lot of money off of Venezuela if they run it. You saw within hours of the invasion the announcement of a group of Wall Street investors.
Okay, enough of you. Let's go back to Marco Rubio on Meet the Press 48 hours ago. Actually, no. Let's go to him 24 hours ago, firing back at UN criticism.
Now, Venezuela's not. You're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source, and the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolás Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
Fugitive no more. Here's Rubio again about there is no war.
With regards to...
Is the United States now at war with Venezuela?
There's not a war. I mean, we are at war against drug trafficking organizations. It's not a war against Venezuela. We are enforcing American laws with regards to oil sanctions. We have sanctioned entities. We go to court. We get a warrant. We seize those boats with oil, and that will continue. We would continue to reserve the right to take strikes against drug boats that are bringing drugs towards the United States that are being operated by transnational criminal organizations, including the Cartel de los Sols. Of course, the leader of that cartel is now in U.S. custody and facing U.S. justice in the Southern District of New York, and that's Nicolás Maduro. So we made a big progress in that regard.
So here we have the acting Venezuelan leader, Delcy Rodriguez, has now been warned by President Trump.
5 a.m., the president...
Do what's right. Do what's right, or face a situation worse than Maduro. See, that's not diplomacy, that's a promise. The narco-state model is finished, and the message has been sent to every regime watching. America is back, the rules are enforced, and hiding behind a title no longer protects you from American justice. So this is why it matters. You see, for decades, Washington talked tough and did nothing. Dictators laughed, cartels expanded, foreign adversaries embedded themselves 90 miles from our shore and poisoned our streets. The establishment told us this was just how the way the world worked. Then we had to manage threats, not eliminate them. President Trump rejected that lie. In one operation, he removed a dictator, decapitated a cartel state, and sent a message heard from Caracas to Beijing. The Western Hemisphere belongs to free people, not narco-terrorists. And of course, the globalists are furious. The NGOs are protesting. The legacy media is melting down. And the Venezuelan people are dancing in the streets for the first time in a generation. See, that's the difference between talk and action. That is the Trump doctrine. That is the MAGA world order in action. So here's my question for the chat. Should the U.S. pursue similar operations against other narco regimes? Colombia, Cuba? We know they're on the table. Drop a yes or no in the comments, and don't forget to visit our merch shop. It's linked in the description. All right. And we are back with our first segment of the new year. And let's check on our super chats to see who has chipped in. We have $4.99 already. What's up? From Curio2369. Take two. What do you call a vegetarian with diarrhea? A salad shooter. Oh. Did you really have to go there? Did you really have to go there? I guess you did. Okay. All right, we're moving right along. We're going from the Venezuela front to the to the fraud triangle. That's what it is. And tracking this story with respect to what's happening in Minnesota, it's truly unraveling in so many other places, revealing that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Truly the tip of the iceberg. Because if it's happening in Minnesota, it's happening everywhere else. We've already seen the fact that California has its problems, other states. Oh yes, President Trump is on a warpath to clean up the mess. So let's get into this because this is big. This is probably the biggest story, I think, of the century. I mean, of course, we have all the stuff that they did to Trump, but with respect to this, the extent of the fraud and the web of corruption that is implicated behind it is bigger than anything we could have ever imagined. So we're going to get into this right now. We've been tracking this story for weeks now, the fraud networks, the phantom programs, the billions in missing taxpayer dollars, and it all comes together. President Trump just connected the dots that we have been showing you and named 3 states bleeding America dry: Minnesota, California, and Illinois. That's where I live. But here's the thing. If it's happening in 3 states, how many others are running the same playbook? We're going to keep going and keep digging until we find out. Now, you've seen this reported on the show. The fake daycares with no playgrounds, the meal programs serving ghost children, the NGOs with no addresses and no accountability, phone numbers that go right to the governor's office. President Trump put the confirmed number at $19 billion stolen, and he made clear that this is only what investigators have found so far. The real number is likely far higher. The FBI surveilled one Minneapolis location for 6 weeks. The operation claimed to feed 4,000 to 6,000 kids daily. The reality? About 40 people actually walked through the door. The same pattern emerging in California, same pattern in Illinois. Federal funds flowing into networks tied to political operatives. Oversight stripped away, whistleblowers silenced. And if 3 states are doing this in plain sight, how many more are hiding it even better? That is the question that we are going to answer. Now, when the government can't be trusted with your tax dollars, you have to ask yourself, who can you rely on? Well, the simple answer is you. If the power went out tonight, if stores were empty tomorrow, would your family be ready? Most people are not. That's why I recommend My Patriot Supply. Right now, they have a special deal on their 3-month emergency food kit. Save $100 while supplies last. Over 2,000 calories a day for 90 days. Real meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks. Last up to 25 years. Made in the USA. No MSG, no junk. When the system fails, your family still eats. Go to preparewithgary.com. Get prepared and get peace of mind. And here's the new development that we have been waiting for. When DHS agents arrived in Minneapolis to investigate, Hilton Hotels launched a coordinated campaign to cancel the reservations using official government emails. Hotels refusing service to federal law enforcement. Think about that. The system protecting itself in real time. President Trump responded by naming California and Illinois alongside Minnesota. Same fraud, same playbook, same political machine. 3 states exposed. But this show is not stopping there. We're going to keep tracking this story because where there's smoke, there's fire, and we intend to find every state running this scheme. Now, I want to get to the president's remarks that he made on Air Force One, because that really points us in the direction that we need to start. It gives us a good foundation because President Trump knows that it's happening. And I know I have the clip here. Here it is.
It's almost not even believable. This very stupid, low IQ governor, he's a very stupid man because, you know, I had a campaign against him with JD. And he's a stupid man. And he's a corrupt politician. And the Somalians are ripping off our country to the tune of, looks like $19 billion, but that's only what they can find. So usually when you're looking at 19, that would mean it could be 50. But the numbers are astronomical. Think of it. They have a dead country. They don't have government. They don't have anything. They don't have a military. All they do is run around shooting people and trying to capture ships. You know, we don't let them take ships anymore. You know why? We use the same exact missile on them that we use on the drug carriers. And it's very effective. So you notice there's nobody capturing ships anymore? Because as they head out to go capture the ship, and the ship doesn't want to fire back because it's very flammable stuff in many cases. And the insurance companies don't want, because they build $1 billion ship, and they don't want anybody firing rockets into the ship. But we're hitting them so hard, and it's very similar. Same missile system. It's called deadly accurate. And do you notice that ships aren't being taken anymore? The pirates are...
That's right. I hadn't thought about
the pirates aren't... Well,
no Somali pirates.
It's actually very easy. They head out, we say, guess what? There's pirates. Bing, that's the end of the pirates. The shipping business is coming back because, see, these are little things that we're doing. And I'm doing it not just for American ships. I'm doing it worldwide. Because we don't want ships taken by Somalia pirates. But what they are doing is they're stealing money from the American taxpayer. And every one of them should be forced to leave this country, including Ilhan Omar, who's a total crook. And she's one of the leaders of it. Not the only, because she's not that smart. But think of it. $19 billion at least they've stolen from Minnesota and from the United States. It's actually more from the United States because Minnesota puts in, and we're not going to pay it anymore. We're going to have Walz go pay. We're not going to pay them, and we're not going to pay California, and we're not going to pay Illinois with that big slob of a governor that they have. It's almost not even...
Illinois is getting cut off, too. You see, he recognizes what is happening and where it all begins. But it really begins with Nick Shirley, man. This guy, again, deserves the presidential medal, the congressional medal. This was 4 hours ago. Nick Shirley exposing that there are 1,200 medical transport companies in Minnesota.
Have that many.
And so what's the need, for example, for 1,200 transportation companies inside of Minnesota? What's the need for that many transportation?
Well, there isn't. There isn't. You're talking about getting a right. You already have services that are provided. You have Metro Mobility that offers free rides to seniors and low-income people. And so to have that many non-emergency medical transportation companies, it's not possible that they can transport that many people. I have been to many of these transportation companies, and I've been time-stamping my photographs for a whole year at one facility in Minneapolis. And those vans in that parking lot had not moved 1 inch in an entire year. They're all still sitting there.
And so when you think about it, you have, with the transportation companies, you have the adult care centers. So are they working hand in hand together to then say, we're getting the services from them, the adult daycare centers, to then transport them to their appointments?
So my feeling is this transportation deal.
And so what's the need, for example, for a
1,200 medical transportation systems. An Ohio Somali daycare fraud exposed big time. Citizen journalist I'm Fired Up Too and Mickey Cook walk in to ask simple sign-up questions. Worker goes berserk, door slams. Uh-oh. Ohio.
Call the police. Get back! Get back! Get back!
Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
Get back!
Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! Holy shit! He just pushed me. I'm calling the police.
Wait. Don't call the police.
Did you see that?
Yeah. All right. So, the heck, what just happened?
He just freaking pushed me. I just walked in there and he just started pushing me and screaming, "Get back!" I'm calling the police.
As you can see, folks, all we did was go in. We were going to ask some questions. And we were attacked here at Jubba Daycare, 614-269-7042, right here in Columbus. All we did was walk in the door. You saw the man come out. He grabbed a hold of Mehek, tried pushing her. And that's how fast things happen. That's how screwed up this place is right now, is these people are all about being violent. We didn't do anything wrong. It's a business. It's right here.
Get back! Get back! Get back!
Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
Get back!
Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
Get back! Get back!
So this daycare fraud is happening everywhere. California fraud bombshell dropping. Whistleblowers expose up to $250 billion in taxpayer theft across the state. Fake community college apps, scamming student aid, pay to play in K-12, and endless waste and abuse. $250 billion stolen while Newsom swamp parties on. This is beyond criminal. It's treason against taxpayers, Gunter Eagleman writes. Elon Musk called it. California's rot is deeper than Minnesota. Time to unleash Doge, slash the waste, jail the grifters, remove Gavin Newsom, radical reform now.
Losing 250 whistleblowers tell GOP candidates that California could be losing $250 billion in the state's education system, including reports of fake community college applications, scamming student aid funds. Which brings us to a different kind of fraud. Ghost daycares. And whistleblowers tell GOP candidates.
Ghost daycares, man. You just saw what's going on in Ohio. Trump targeting California in fraud probe, and Newsom claims he welcomes the investigation. All right. Just like Maduro welcomed him too, right? As investigations into fraud in Minnesota continue, Trump announced a new fraud investigation in California. These moves follow findings released by Steve Hilton and Herb Morgan from their Califraudia tip line investigation. They allege widespread pay abuse in California's K-12 education system. Prior reports described lack of accountability in homelessness and social welfare funding, raising the risk of fraud and waste. The California State Auditor already has flagging high-risk issues in programs, including CalFresh, unemployment insurance, and Medi-Cal eligibility. Sheriff James Mendrick, I believe we'll find that Illinois is involved with as much fraud or even more than Minnesota. And he is running for governor of the state of Illinois. I met his wife recently, lovely lady, and I wished him the best of luck in his campaign. He was quote tweeting the excuse me, the Illinois Republican Party from 6 days ago. Hundreds of state employees improperly stole millions of COVID relief money using made-up businesses or fake income reports. That was the Illinois Republican Party finally doing something. Brian Simons, 3 hours ago, as an Illinois resident, I support President Trump's action to stop the fraud. He was quote tweeting Tammy Duckworth. It doesn't get more wicked than this. Donald Trump is cutting $10 billion for child care and social services in Illinois and other blue states. I wonder why. Because it's never even reaching the people. Health Department to freeze $10 billion in funding in 5 Democrat states. That's the headline she's writing. The funding pause could jeopardize child care and other programs that serve hundreds of thousands of households in California, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, and New York. And, oh, yes, there is a rape proposed community note flagging her. The funds are being stolen. The funds are being frozen because there were no children present at the facilities receiving funds. Let's go into this community note. Let's go deeper. This is good. I love community notes. The funds are being frozen because there were no children present at the facilities receiving funds when audits were conducted in the states in question. This is not political. It's common sense and just to the taxpayers that aren't defrauding the U.S. government. So Tammy Duckworth is oh no, my entire kickback scheme is getting exposed. How much is she getting kickbacks to look the other way? That's a question we need to ask. Say if Minnesota is billions deep in fraud, how are your investigations geniuses doing in Illinois? In the most corrupt state, that would be shooting fish in a barrel, or do we need to send a kid with a cell phone? Michael Holstrom. This is the action Minnesotans have been waiting for. The Trump administration is acting where the Democrat administration failed. This is what I voted for.
Dana, to knock on the ground. They say they see these daycare centers, adult daycare centers, autism centers, home health care centers all over the place. So that's why DHS has to be here, Dana, to knock on these doors and say, you've received this much money. What'd you do with it? So we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, glad you're there. Thank you, Alexis.
So Liz, the ground, They say they see.
How much did you get? What did you do with it? Nate Morris. American citizenship's a privilege, not a scam. If you defraud our country or commit serious crimes after taking the oath, Congress should revoke that privilege and send you home. Hats off to Senator Schmidt for recognizing the fact Congress needs to vote this through now. So Eric Schmidt introducing 24 hours ago legislation to revoke the U.S. citizenship of those who defraud our country or commit other felonies after taking their citizenship oath. And they should start with Ilhan Omar.
Biden administration. It's a pretty stunning development. And in fact, I'll be introducing some legislation to make it easier to denaturalize individuals who've committed this kind of fraud in our country. We need to go after this fraud. We need to have more tools to make sure this kind of fraud doesn't happen. But it's a really stunning development. I think it also tells you, Harris, that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the Somali-based fraud that had to do with these daycare centers. There's also a bunch of money went out the door at the end of the Biden administration that had nothing to do with COVID, but it was under the auspices of these COVID funds. I think you're going to see another wave of fraud. So I think that's probably at the heart of why Tim Walz's demise here is headline news. But you know, the other fraud that was perpetrated when he was picked as the running mate, he was supposed to be, Governor Jazz Hands would come out on stage. He wasn't appealing to.
Oh, where'd we go? Sorry. Lost it. My bad.
Offer to deal with the fact, Governor Jazz Hands would come out on stage. He wasn't appealing to young men. I mean, this was the best they had to offer to deal with the fact that their party had completely tacked to the left over the last decade. And so Tim Walz is kind of the poster child, I think, for not only how out of touch the Democrats are, but how corrupt they are when they actually govern. It's a pretty stunning development. And in fact,
it's official. Tim Walz has quit the governor's race. You may have heard. This is 24 hours ago. But do not allow him to get away with his crimes, Nick Sordo writes. Fully investigate and prosecute him. Yeah, he's running scared.
This has major breaking political news out of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tim Walz will not seek re-election as governor, and what a fall from grace this has been for him. You might recall in the spring of 2023, he pushed through several progressive ideas to the state legislature that caught the attention of Barack Obama, who went to Twitter to give his endorsement for the programs, which eventually caught the attention of people like Kamala Harris, who chose him to be her running mate as the vice president. Introduced in Chicago at the convention in August of last year, a debate that was an absolute disaster with J.D. Vance at one point called himself a knucklehead. But after reportedly billions of dollars have been stolen from taxpayers by way of the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz says he will not seek a third term. what a remarkable 2 years in the national spotlight has been for him, Dana.
And
what a fall from grace, huh? From VP nominee to getting taken down by a YouTuber. Are you over Democrat leadership in California? California gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton is.
They were sending out
in unemployment fraud, $5.9 billion. What are they talking about?
Well, yeah. Where's that against the $55 billion that they lost? I mean, they were sending out unemployment checks. This goes back to the pandemic to people in jail, overseas, dead people. I mean, it just, they had 3 million people on their actual books who should have been receiving money. 9 million actually got money. That's on their own numbers. So the real point is that this is what happens when you have one party rule for so long. It's 16 years now next year. No one else in charge, just the Democrats. It breeds complacency and corruption and arrogance. They don't think there'll ever be any political consequence for this. They don't care what happens in the real world. You've got someone like Newsom whose only concern is his own political future and running for president rather than delivering results for Californians. And that's why people are just going to say, we're done with this. We're done with this one-party rule. We've got to have some change in California.
In unemployment fraud.
It's not just California. It's Illinois. I mean, what we have to endure here under that fat slob is unbelievable. Here's more from Nick Shirley. This is 48 hours ago. Posting a video exposing another Somali daycare getting shut down and reopening under a different name. When they reopened, they got $2.4 million. We the people want a refund. Do you support this?
Was reopened then. Here in Minnesota, blatant fraud is taking place within the government and the Somalian population. Right here, you see a daycare center. It says it's Creative Minds Daycare. Creative Minds Daycare was actually shut down and was reopened the next day underneath the name Super Kids. And just in the past year, in 2025, this daycare alone has received $2.45 million. It's rumored here that some of these daycares and these other businesses that are committing fraud have been rumored to be giving money back to terrorist groups in Somalia. There's a 35% chance on Polymarket right now that those people who helped defraud the government will be deported back to Somalia. But this daycare alone received over $2.45 million. So maybe if you want to become a millionaire here in the United States, you should open up a daycare center and receive government funding from a governor like Tim Walz here inside the state of Minnesota, because these people are making $2.45 million. And right now you have a BMW, Range Rover, BMW, and a van outside of this daycare center here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Well, pretty soon, Tim Walz is going to be living in a van down by the river, if not his own private cell. So let's keep going because the story doesn't end there. No room at the inn. Homeland Security posting this. Hilton Hotels has launched a coordinated campaign in Minneapolis to refuse service to DHS law enforcement. When officers attempted to book rooms using official government emails and rates, Hilton Hotels maliciously canceled the reservations. Let's check in with Jack Posobiec. And this is 24 hours ago saying something going on in Minneapolis.
Today, you got to focus Minneapolis and the earthquake there of Walz and Caracas, lower Manhattan, right? For the American people in the MAGA movement today, what is more important?
Well, today you got to focus on, you have to absolutely focus on Minneapolis, and you have to figure out what's going on. Why is it this one city, Steve? Think about it. George Floyd, Minneapolis, all right? The trans shooter at the Catholic school, Minneapolis, just 2 weeks before Charlie Kirk's murder, was up there in Minneapolis. The massive Somali fraud, Minneapolis. There's something, and the great Liz Collin over at Alpha News perhaps could answer this better than me. There's something going on in Minneapolis that for some reason all of our national stories, these national narratives seem to converge there. Maybe it's a convergence site. Maybe it's a place where the Democrats and the left and the globalists are converging their forces. Honestly, I don't even know the answer for it. But what I do know is that Minneapolis 30 years ago did not have these problems. Yeah. They did not have the massive importation of Somalis there. And these scams, this insanity was not being run. Then they pluck up Tim Walz. They try to push him out. They push him out of his bubble in Minneapolis. And suddenly when when real media gets a sense of him and when the broader media gets a sense of him, they're not completely bought off, then we made short work of him. And by the way, Steve, mark my words, we'll do the exact same thing to Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania that happened to Tim Walz. So Joshy, little Joshy, take a good look at Tim Walz right now. That is your future the minute you try to step out of Pennsylvania.
Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah. The noose is tightening everywhere. One giant scam, says Elon Musk. 90% of small businesses fail, yet the Samara Adult Daycare still has their lights on without having one customer.
Today, adult daycare.
People who 220 is finished. Them. Why you take it?
I'm sorry?
Why you take it picture? What?
So it seems like they're up and operating today.
Huh? 230 client all right now is gone.
That's good.
Only me 3. Still I'm waiting. Driver.
Oh, for the driver?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, I'm waiting driver.
What kind of things do you guys do with the seniors?
Yeah.
Because like I have grandparents as well, and I want to know how I can keep them happy and occupied.
Yes, everything.
Yeah. So what kind
in the morning, breakfast, fruits, everything I'm eating.
Really?
All people. Second is lunch.
Wow.
Everybody lunch. If you want it, you take it home.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what kind of games do you guys play? Or
a lot of game.
Really?
Is their game. Just a lot of name, but I don't speak good English.
Oh, and so your clients probably speak Somalian.
Hold on.
Yeah. It doesn't really seem like anybody in there speaks English. She was not happy at me for recording, but now she seems happy that she got to clarify that they give them breakfast and lunch.
You know what's amazing? You know, Nick Shirley really opened up a can of worms when he decided to take his cell phone and go and do a little investigation. And now, like, all these other independent reporters, independent journalists, truth seekers are out there doing the exact same thing. I mean, Shirley has spawned something that is now spreading to every single state in the country. Everybody is inspired by his work, and now the waterfall effect is happening. This is beautiful. Even Elon Musk highlighting it, amplifying it as it should be. Let's continue here. Ned Ryan. This is staggering and also so obvious that, of course, Walz, Ellison, Omar, probably Klobuchar, every last elected Democrat in Minnesota have had to have known about it. Quote tweeting Derek Evans, Minneapolis sent $12 million in federal meal funds to a Somali restaurant claiming to feed 4,000 to 6,000 kids daily.
In December of 2021, the FBI installed a surveillance camera overlooking this building just off Lake Street in Minneapolis. At the time, it was Safari Restaurant, which overall took in $12 million in federal child meal payments through Feeding Our Future. Safari's former co-owner, Salim Saeed, is on trial alongside Amy Bach, the Feeding Our Future executive director. Safari claimed to feed 4,000 to 6,000 kids a day. Its invoices and meal counts shown to the jury alongside the video. An FBI agent testifying that an average of 40 people came and went during the 6 weeks it was surveilled. The FBI set up a total of 12 cameras at sites claiming to serve extraordinary numbers of meals. Another was at a deli in St. Paul, also registered by defendant Salim Saeed, which claimed 1,800 meals per day. The video shown to the jury showed an average of 23 people a day coming and going. The jury was shown dozens of invoices, meal counts, and emails seized from Feeding Our Future's headquarters in St. Anthony. Some showed links to websites that randomly generated names and ages to create rosters of children who were served meals. Many were signed or sent by Amy Bach, who's charged with wire fraud, along with bribery for the alleged kickbacks that she received. Her defense attorney tried to raise doubt when it cross-examined the FBI.
I'm going to pause right here because Feeding Our Future, I mean, that whole scam was created and introduced by Ilhan Omar herself. She's at the top of the pyramid. We can't let that slide. The people like this guy who's on trial, he's just kind of, he's just one executing the plan. We need to go after the head of the snake.
Agent that they didn't see the back entrance where it's possible meals left packed in trucks for delivery. He pushed back, insisting they'd still see congestion. To that volume, he said, I would say it would not make any sense.
That case became one of the biggest COVID-era frauds in America. And the kicker, Minnesota's own Department of Education had red flags. Massive spikes in reimbursement requests, impossible meal counts, and they still rubber stamped the paperwork. Now, this new audit proves what everyone with a brain has been saying for years. Incompetence starts at the top. When the governor's own office is sloppy with receipts, how can he possibly keep his agencies in line? Republican Senate Leader Mark Johnson said it perfectly. Quote, sloppy accountability at the top breeds waste and abuse everywhere else. And he's right about that. You cannot preach fiscal responsibility when you are overpaying employees, losing state property, and mismanaging vendor payments. And it's not just the feeding our future mess. We've also got the autism services fraud case, another multi-million-dollar scam in the same state, involving clinics billing for therapy that never happened. And to make it worse, some of those same providers were linked to the Feeding Our Future network. It's the same pattern: inflated invoices, non-existent oversight, and zero accountability.
Oh, but accountability is on the way. Whether it's from President Trump's FBI, whether it's from citizen journalists, it's all getting exposed in real time, and every single state is about to fall. And the beautiful part is we're heading right into the midterms. President Trump sharing the reporting about how Ilhan Omar went from the poorest member of Congress to one of the richest, entering Congress in 2018 with a massive $65,000 debt, now worth $30 million in a few years. Here is Benny Johnson.
But she's also, how did the poorest member of Congress become one of the richest members of Congress in just a few short years, and she wasn't even born here? Ilhan Omar is the key to unlocking everything with the Somali fraud. Ilhan Omar has said many times that she is here to represent the interests of Somalia, and that's exactly what she's done in Congress. But she's also represented her own interests. Ilhan Omar entered Congress in 2018 as the poorest members of Congress. She had a negative net worth, negative $65,000 due to student loan and credit card and car debt. You'll find that at $174,000 a year, if she saved every single penny, she'd be worth a couple $100,000 after she paid off her debt. But that's not the case. Ilhan Omar is insanely rich. She's worth $30 million. How did that happen? Two things: massive fraud and her shady-ass husband and his shady finances inflating and ballooning exponentially Ilhan Omar's net worth. Ilhan Omar passed the Meals Act in 2022. This is an act that majorly deregulated the federal government's oversight of meals programs for children. This is the same.
This is exactly what I just said. Exactly what I just said.
Act that was used by her friends in Minneapolis in order to defraud the federal government of nearly $500 million. Ilhan Omar even worked at the kitchen that was committing the fraud, feeding the fake children, the real problem in Minneapolis, the daycares and the food centers. But then you get to Tim Minette. This is Ilhan Omar's third husband. This is a shady Democrat operative that launched venture capital firms at the exact same time that Ilhan Omar and her friends were defrauding the American taxpayers with the Meals Act. Those venture capital firms were stacked with Obama and Democrat operatives, and guess what? Their valuation ballooned at the exact same time that the fraud was going on. Rose Lake Venture Capital is listed as a $30 million asset on Ilhan Omar's disclosures, yet they don't even have a physical office in Washington, D.C. For such a successful firm, you'd think there'd be something more than a WeWork address, but that's all they got. And they're also scrubbing the names of their board of directors, which used to be staffed with a bunch of Obama officials, former ambassadors, and DNC apparatchiks, now completely gone. What's going on here? Also, a bankrupt and fraudulent wine company is also listed on Ilhan Omar's financial disclosures as being something that is paying her something like $1 million to $5 million worth of net worth, even though this company is totally fraudulent. It's not real. You call it, it's not a real number.
Well, let's go ahead and give him a call and find out. Oh no, user busy. Well, I've done this like 20 times today. Nobody ever answers because this wine company's fake. It was sued into bankruptcy because of, you guessed it, fraud.
The name on one of their wines? The Devil's Lie. You can't make this stuff up. So Ilhan Omar has become obscenely rich in 1 year, going from one of the poorest members of Congress to one of the richest because of a shady venture capitalist company that nobody knows where their money's coming from, at the same time that the massive Somali fraud's ongoing and being paid by a defunct wine company that doesn't even have an operable phone number. The Devil's Lie. Ilhan Omar needs to be fully investigated for this fraud and her connection to it, and we need answers. We can't run a government like this. How did the poorest member of Congress become one of the richest?
Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know? It tells you where it all is connected. See, Elon Musk, he looked at the evidence. He called it one giant scam. President Trump naming Ilhan Omar directly, saying she and others involved should be forced to leave the country. He calls out the Illinois governor. He calls out California. Then he said the words every corrupt operator has been dreading. We're not going to pay anymore. 3 states confirmed, but the investigation is far from over. The fraud triangle may just only be beginning. So this is why we do what we do. For weeks, this show has been connecting the dots while legacy media ignored the story. Fake daycares, shell nonprofits, political operatives getting rich off programs meant to help children. You saw it here. And now the President of the United States is confirming everything we've been reporting. Minnesota, California, Illinois, 3 states named, 19 billion confirmed stolen. But how deep does this actually go? How many other states are running the same scheme with better cover? You see, we don't know yet. But we're going to find out, and we're going to bring you the receipts. And we're going to keep tracking every lead until the full scope of this fraud is exposed. President Trump pulling the plug on 3 states. More may follow. So here's my question for the chat. How many states do you think are running this fraud? Drop your guess below. And make sure you check out the Next News merch shop linked in the description. All right. Let's see what we have going on, man. Isn't this crazy? This is just, it's crazy, but it's beautiful to witness. Finally, we're having some accountability, folks. We're finally getting some, the wind at our back so that we can squash this fraud. Yeah, Omar needs to be the first person to go to Mars. That's funny. Sorry. I am getting over a little bit of a cold. And Brian, run that test one more time if you can. I gave you a new URL to test. And let me check in on any super chats that have come through here. Chris Orr. Good to see you back, Gary. Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year to you and Happy New Year to everybody who is watching tonight. We love you guys. We got to stay on the topic of Minnesota because while the investigations continue, we have to track the fallout of the scandals. So this next segment is revolving around just that. What's happening, how people are reacting as this cover-up goes national. Because as you know, Walz has quit. He's quitting his campaign. So we're going to get into that. Brian, before we do, can you just confirm that you got that message? Okay, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. All right, let me just pull this. And if you are ready, then I will be ready to go when you are. Because I know you're trying to multitask a bunch of stuff over there. I keep throwing things at you. During a live show. I know. All right. Just let me know when I can proceed. Thank you, Brian. He was supposed to be untouchable, a sitting governor backed by the full weight of the Democrat machine. The legacy media covered for him, the political establishment protected him, and then, without warning, Tim Walz folded. He's done, dropping out, walking away from the governor's race while investigators close in. But here's what they don't want you asking. If he did nothing wrong, then why is he running? See, this is what accountability looks like when the cover stops working. Tim Walz sat at the center of the largest fraud scandal in Minnesota history. Billions in federal funds disappeared into phantom programs while his administration looked the other way. President Trump said Walz was caught red-handed, along with Ilhan Omar and others, stealing tens of billions of dollars. You see, this is not our accusation. That is the president of the United States speaking on the record, and now Walz is abandoning ship rather than face what's coming. Let's think about what this means. The man who wanted to be vice president of the United States is now too politically toxic to run for governor of his own state. Not because of Republicans, not because of cable news, but because independent journalists on free speech platforms expose what the legacy media refuse to touch. You see, when politicians abandon ship and the institutions meant to protect you collapse, who's left standing? You are. And that means being prepared. If the power went out tonight, if stores were empty tomorrow, would your family be ready? You see, most people are not. And that's why I recommend my Patriots supply. Right now, save $100 on their 3-month emergency food kit while supplies last. Over 200 calories a day for 90 days, real meals. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks last up to 25 years. Made in the USA. No MSG, no junk. You see, politicians come and go. Your responsibility to your family does not. Go to preparewithgary.com, get prepared, and get peace of mind. But what did Walz do on his way out? What did he do? He blamed right-wing YouTubers. He accused them of breaking into daycare and demanding access to children. That is a deflection of a man with no defense left. Meanwhile, sources say Senator Amy Klobuchar met with party insiders over the weekend. A possible handoff, a political reshuffling, not accountability, containment. The machine is trying to protect itself by swapping out the damaged piece. President Trump already made it clear. Quitting does not mean escaping, because no one is above the law. 8 hours ago, Gunther Eagleman posting that a reporter pressing Walz about the massive fraud, and he lost his mind ranting about nothing other than Trump. He writes, he's livid that the truth about what he's enabled has been shown to the entire world. Minnesotans will benefit the very moment he leaves. Let's watch this moment together.
But by the 12th, we're going to have people receiving their payments. With that, I'll take some questions.
Governor, did you make a decision to end your campaign by yourself, or did you receive pressure from Democratic allies?
This is a decision that I make and make with my family. And certainly, I think, as I said, it's the right decision. I'll note, I think it's appropriate we're here today. The war that's being waged against Minnesota, you're seeing it. We have a ridiculous surge of apparently 2,000 people not coordinating with us that are for a show of the cameras. I'm going to note to all of you, today is January 6th. There's no debate what happened. The President of the United States led an insurrection against a fair election to try and overturn that and, report both sides of this. Well,
he invoked January 6th. Man, aren't they just tired? I haven't. But January 6th happened. Oh my God.
He said he really didn't, and courts convicted 400 of them, and he pardoned them. No, he did that. He did that, and that's today. And it's clear that we also saw today he implemented 5 states are being punished with a freezing of federal funds illegally that were appropriated by Congress, our tax dollars. And I find it interesting that Minnesota, California, Illinois, and New York were taking that. The interesting thing is the biggest fraud trial in the country is taking place in Mississippi today with $100 million of welfare fraud. And I don't believe Mississippi was on that list. So look, this is a concerted effort to try and destroy.
Wait a minute. 100 million? Come on, that's peanuts. Walz, you're talking about 20 billion in your state. So yeah, 100 million is bad. But 20 billion or more. Maybe that's why it's not on the radar immediately and not getting the headlines it deserves.
The president's opponents to destroy the rule of law, and it became apparent to me that he was going to do that with me being there, and I just feel, along with my family, that it's the best decision for Minnesota, and I feel very confident in that. I think it's going to be clear that Minnesotans agree with that.
Yeah, they do agree with it. Minnesota deserves and demand an immediate resignation. That's really what should happen. I agree, too. I mean, he can run away from his campaign, but what he needs to do is resign in shame.
That's Senator Walz knew he was going to lose. Is it because the fraud was too much to handle, or was something else perhaps in the offing here?
You've hit the nail on the head. This is not surprising. Tim Walz was going to lose. He thinks that doing this is going to get him off the hook, and the reality is it's not good enough. Minnesotans deserve and demand an immediate resignation. And honestly, to that point, Donald Trump and the DOJ should be looking at charges. This level of nonfeasance and absolute corruption cannot go unpunished.
Senator.
Oh, yeah. I believe that there will be charges. Beware, Amy Klobuchar is from Minnesota and just as involved in the fraud as Tampon Tim. Yeah, there is word that she is throwing her hat in the ring. Corrupt Amy Klobuchar kickback possible scheme to appoint Tim Walz to Senate exposed early. Amy Klobuchar is expected to run for governor of Minnesota to replace Tim Walz. Here's the time she stood in a blizzard to lecture us about the importance of Somalis to this country. That's because she's deep in the fraud, too.
Look down at them. In Minnesota, we have the biggest Somali population in the country, and we are proud of that community. A few years ago, at the height of the angry rhetoric, a Somali-American family of 4 went out to dinner right here in Minnesota. This guy walked by, he looked down at them and said, "You 4 go home. You go home to where you came from." And the little girl looked up at her mom, and she said, "Mom, I don't want to go home. You said we could eat out for dinner tonight. I don't want to eat dinner at home." You think of the innocent words of that little girl. She only knows one home, and that's our state. She only knows one home, and that's the United States of America. In Minnesota, we have the biggest Somali population.
Yeah, she is pandering directly to that community that's engaged in all the fraud. Let's check in with Jesse Waters, talking about Tim Walz walking the plank, dropping out of his race. Amy Klobuchar may be taking over. Sources say Amy cooked up a deal to step in. Had a secret meeting over the weekend.
Tim Walz is finally walking the plank. He just dropped out of the race for governor.
Every minute that I spend defending my own political interest would be a minute I can't spend defending the people of Minnesota against the criminals who prey on our generosity and the cynics who want to prey on our differences. So I've decided to step out of this race, and I'll let others worry about the election while I focus on the work that's in front of me for the next year.
Walz was almost a heartbeat away from the presidency, and now he can't even win re-election in his own state. But he's not saying adios just yet. The Walz family is already plotting a comeback.
I'm just getting started. I am now being let loose because of this, people. So good luck, Donald Trump and all the Republicans, because you have not seen the last of me or him, to be quite honest.
Maybe she could run with Klobuchar. Word on the street, Amy cooked up a deal to step in for Walz, to keep the governor's mansion out of Republicans' hands. They had a secret meeting Saturday and had a nice little chat. If she wins, there's going to be an open Senate seat. You know who'll need a job? Tampon. Because once he retires, he'll be broke and homeless. He doesn't own any real estate, any stocks, any bonds. He'll have to go on welfare. Too bad the pirates stole it. But Timmy doesn't look too worried. Before dropping out, he treated himself to a Last Supper.
Okay, what'd you get?
All right, Culver's. We're repping Culver's tonight. I'm just going to say this. Their mushroom and Swiss burgers are very difficult to beat, and onion rings.
Does he think dropping out gets him off the hook? He shouldn't. He's Captain Hook, and his ship's already sinking. 47's not patching up the holes. In fact, he's sending in the troops. Look at that, 2,000 of them.
This very stupid, low IQ governor, he's a very stupid man, because, I had a campaign against him with JD, and he's a stupid man, and he's a corrupt politician. The Somalians are ripping off our country to the tune of, looks like $19 billion, but that's only what they can find. So usually when you look at it 19, that would mean it could be 50.
Trump's onto something. The more we discover, the worse it looks. Tim Walz is finally walking the plank. He just dropped out of the race.
President Trump had some remarks.
An example. Do you think Walz could pass a cognitive test, as an example? Do you think Kamala could? I don't think Gavin could. He's got a good line of crap, but other than that, he couldn't pass. Do you think Walz...
Trump taking shots already. President Trump declaring no one's above the law as Tim Walz may resign as Minnesota governor before his term is up. Eric Doherty writes, lock the traitor up. Trump writes he was caught red-handed along with Ilhan Omar and others of his Somali friends stealing tens of billions of taxpayer dollars. I feel certain the facts will come out and they will reveal a seriously unscrupulous rich group of slimeballs. Governor Walz has destroyed the state of Minnesota, but others like Governor Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker, and Kathy Hochul have done, in my opinion, an even more dishonest and incompetent job. No one is above the law. No one is above the law. Remember, they used to echo that all the time. While announcing his withdrawal from the governor's race, Tim Walz accuses conspiracy theorist right-wing YouTubers of breaking into daycares and demanding access to children.
All we neighbors. We've got conspiracy theorist right-wing YouTubers.
I mean, these attacks just have no effect anymore. They really don't. It's just buzzwords that's thrown out so that their base can say it was a conspiracy theory. Remember? What was the thing Hillary always used to say? A vast right-wing conspiracy? No. We're always right. We have been proven right time and time and time again.
We've got conspiracy theorist right-wing YouTubers breaking into our daycares, demanding access to our children. We've got the President of the United States demonizing our Somali neighbors and wrongfully confiscating funds that Minnesotans rely on. It's disgusting and it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's disgusting and dangerous indeed what you've done to your state. The fact that Tim Walz's political future was ended without the help of legacy media is a testament to the strength of free speech platforms like X. Investigative journalism no longer lives exclusively in newsrooms. It lives on social media where the truth cannot be buried. Wesley Hunt with Benny Johnson.
All this crap, even though, and the fact that we have been able to end this guy's career without the help of legacy media is what this country is all about. This is why Elon Musk bought Twitter. This is why we have people like you that are fighting the good fight. This is why we have investigative journalists that are willing to go to social media and expose all this crap, even though CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of them are never going to cover it. We were still able to get justice to get this guy to not run for re-election. Now, obviously, I want to see the next step here because this goes deep, and there's a reason why he's resigning. This is just the very tip of the iceberg. You are right. Democrats don't ever resign. But where there is smoke, there's a 5-alarm fire here. This is just the beginning. We need to continue to dig. We need to get to the bottom of this. I sit on the House Judiciary Committee. This has got to be exposed. And again, this is kind of the beginning of the cratering of the Democrat Party. And this is the beginning of the America First movement, putting enough pressure on them without the help of legacy media to get this done. And the fact that we have been able to end this.
This is the beginning, folks. We're at the very, we've been tracking this for weeks, but again, this is only the start of it as this complete insanity unravels. Elon Musk says, and so we bid adieu, or whatever they say in Somali, to Traitor Tim. Tim Walz has dropped out of the Minnesota race. Elon Musk weighing in. It's official. Tim Walz drops out. Plagued by Somali fraud, exposed by independent journalists like Nick Shirley. FAFO, Tim, it's about time. Good riddance. Now lock up the traitor. And of course, here he had the gall to pin the fraud on white people instead of taking accountability for what the Somalis have done. He can't leave office soon enough.
My whole damn life. So this is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy when you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white. That's never happened once in my whole damn life. And I think everybody in this room knows what they're doing. So we're here today to say enough of this. We're here today to stand that Minnesota will protect their neighbors. So,
yeah. Listen to him, man. Just throwing out those dog whistles for his people. Governor Tim Walz announced he's dropping out of the governor's race and mentions Nick Shirley in his statement. Really? I won't mince words here. Trump and his allies in Washington and St. Paul and online want to make our state a colder and meaner place. We got conspiracy theorists, right-wing YouTubers breaking into daycare centers, demanding access to our children. This is his full statement. I'm not even going to entertain it. But Tim Walz is out, and he will not seek re-election.
Tim Walz, who, of course, was the Democratic nominee for vice president in 2024, has ended his re-election bid for governor. He is not going to run for re-election. This comes as pressure has been growing around this widening welfare fraud scandal. Now, Walz has not been accused of any wrongdoing, but it has been a growing political headache. Let's get right to CNN Chief National Affairs Correspondent.
Nah, let's not. So Elon Musk responded with 3 words, and so we bid adieu. Congressman Wesley Hunt said this moment proves investigative journalism no longer lives in the newsroom. It lives on social media, where the truth cannot be buried. Tim Walz is not stepping aside because he wants to. He's stepping aside because he has no choice. See, the fraud was too big, the receipts were too public, and the president made clear the investigation doesn't stop because he quit. So let that sink in. Tim Walz stood on a debate stage and asked America to trust him with the vice presidency. Now he cannot even trust Minnesota voters to reelect him as governor. See, that's not spin. That is called collapse. Independent journalists did what the New York Times refused to do. They just followed the money. They exposed the fraud. They held power accountable, and now a sitting governor is walking away rather than face the consequences. President Trump said no one's above the law. Walz just proved he believes it. But walking away is not justice because the investigation must continue. They must trace the money, and everyone involved must answer for what happened to those billions. So here's my question for the chat. Should Tim Walz face criminal charges? Yes or no? Let's have a conversation in the comments below. And grab your gear at the Next News merch shop, linked in the description. What's up, Cody? Dropping $10. Thank you, Gary. And NNN for your courage to tell the truth. Thank you, Cody, for your support. And Karen Hansen dropping $5. Jail them all. Thank you for your work, Gary. Thank you for your support of our show. And checking in on our current totals, our goal, of course, is 100 tonight. We're at $39.99. I think we can do better, guys. But we're doing well. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're going to get into our next topic because we have to keep tracking this other story on the seditious 6 that is definitely needs to be tracked here. So we're going to move into our next topic. A United States senator just lost his military rank. Not for a crime overseas, not for misconduct decades ago, but for telling American troops to disobey the commander-in-chief. Senator Mark Kelly, former astronaut, retired Navy captain, has been hit with the consequences he never thought would come. Censured, stripped of rank, pay cut. And the Pentagon says this is only the beginning. So understand what happened here. Mark Kelly went on video and urged active duty service members to refuse what he called illegal orders from President Trump. That language is not rhetoric. It's in military law, it's a match next to gasoline. Encouraging troops to disobey civilian command is the definition of sedition. And for years, politicians did it without consequence. They flirted with mutiny. They played games with the chain of command. And nothing happened. Until now. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth issued a formal letter of censure. He ordered a review of Kelly's retired grade under federal statute. And the result is official. Kelly's been stripped of his captain rank and his retired pay has been cut. The Pentagon made clear that court-martial remains an option if this behavior continues. When a sitting senator urges troops to disobey the commander-in-chief, you realize just how fragile the chain of command has become. And when institutions are tested, you cannot afford to be caught unprepared. If the power went out tonight, if stores were empty tomorrow, would your family be ready? See, most people are not. And that's why I recommend My Patriots Supply. Save $100 right now on a 3-month emergency food kit. Over 2,000 calories a day for 90 days. Real meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks. Lasts up to 25 years, made in the USA. When the world gets uncertain, your family stays fed. Go to preparewithgary.com, get prepared, and get peace of mind. And there is more to the story. Investigators have been raising questions about Kelly's post-military business dealings. Reports allege a balloon surveillance company tied to Kelly received funding linked to the Chinese Communist Party. Combine that with public calls for troops to ignore orders, and suddenly it's not just about a video. Elon Musk publicly called Kelly a traitor, and Kelly acknowledged it. The Pentagon did not dismiss it. They acted. This is what happens when words have consequences. Again. Here it is. Sedition and treachery. Former astronaut and current Seditious Six member, Senator Mark Kelly, started a spy balloon company funded by the Chinese Communist Party. Real Robert writes he should be investigated for espionage and sedition and court-martialed for both. Here's the headline. Former astronaut Senator Mark Kelly started a spy balloon company funded by China.
Traveling at 60,000 feet.
Does this one compare?
CBS News now.
Does this one compare?
Well, the Chinese spy balloon was traveling at 60,000 feet. It was 200 feet tall, and it was carrying a payload of intelligence sensors and solar panels the size of 2 freight cars. And of course, the U.S. military shot it down when it reached the Atlantic Ocean. This small balloon is traveling at about 60 miles an hour, and NORAD says it will continue to monitor it to make sure it does not present a hazard to aviation. Nora?
Got it. So much smaller, but they are on alert.
So,
David Martin.
remember
this
that
one
Chinese spy balloon? Yeah, who can forget that bizarre story? This is huge. The Department of War is officially demoting Mark Kelly's retirement rank, a serious punishment on his service record for his incendiary call to disobey the commander-in-chief. Matt Tardio has the details.
Grade. The Department of War just sent over quite a lengthy statement. It's up on my X page if you want to read it, all of it, because there's so much there. But ultimately, the Department of War has initiated retirement grade determination proceedings under which they can reduce his retirement grade, his retired grade, I should say. So that's his rank. Let's bring Matt back in, because obviously, Matt, you are a vet. You'll understand this more than myself. So break down this latest update on all of this. What does this mean for Mark Kelly?
It's a huge slap to the face. So when you are retired from the United States military, such as myself or Mark Kelly, you are still bound to the UCMJ. You are receiving pay from the United States government as a retired member of the United States military. Mark Kelly, most interestingly, ended up retiring, from what I've read so far, as a lieutenant general. And they, in the Department of War statement, ended up knocking him down to a captain, which is massive. That means they found him guilty of the things in which he was at least accused of. And so when we end up seeing these proceedings, we're gonna learn more on how he ended up getting there. But this is absolutely unprecedented. I'm trying to think of there is no other U.S. senator, that ended up getting tried for this, that ended up getting knocked down on this level. But what it does absolutely do is, I think it's very. this is huge for the Trump administration, for the Department of War, for everybody else. We've got laws on the books in this country, right? And these laws are not meant to be played with. They're not meant to be bent. They're most certainly not meant to be broken. And you most certainly should not try to undermine the commander-in-chief of the United States military. And that is particularly what Mark Kelly did. And that is exactly what they looked into and what they dug into. And a jury of his peers, a judge, everybody has agreed that Mark Kelly has done these things, and they saw fit to demote him. So he's no longer a lieutenant general, as they've noted very, very carefully in their post. It appears to me as if he is he's now a captain. So his pay is going to get docked and everything else, but more importantly, he's going to have a blemish on his service record now, to which we will see what they ended up finding him guilty of in order to downgrade him. But that's huge. That's massive.
Mark Kelly facing the consequences. 48 hours ago, Mark Kelly says Elon Musk called him a traitor. Oh, your feelings hurt?
Doesn't understand. Hey, I just got back from Ukraine, and Elon Musk called me a traitor.
What were you doing in Ukraine? Cashing paychecks?
Hey, I just got back from Ukraine, and Elon Musk called me a traitor. If Elon Musk doesn't understand what it means to stick up for American values and our principles, well, maybe he should just leave it to the people who do. I swore an oath to this nation when I was 22 years old to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Cry me a river, bro. Pentagon initiating the proceedings to demote U.S. Senator Kelly, a retired captain, over telling soldiers to refuse illegal orders. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth sent a censure letter to Mark Kelly, instructed Navy Secretary John Phelan to review his rank. Consequences were on the ballot November 5th, and this is exactly what I voted for. Chicago 1 Ray writes.
The crime. And
as you understand it, what's happening?
Well, they believe that it's possible that Captain Kelly, retired Captain Kelly, who is subject to the UCMJ under Article 2, committed a crime, and so they're going to investigate that. And regardless of whether that proves to be true or not, the fact is that this video undermined good order and discipline. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were essentially wink, wink, nod, nod, telling members of the military that they should reflexively doubt the legality of the commander-in-chief's orders. And that's where they crossed the line politically.
Okay. All right. A couple of things here. Jack Keane was with us yesterday, and we asked him about that whole thing about chain of command that you mentioned. All right. Here's Jackie on that.
These are irresponsible, reckless political leaders, and I normally don't go after political leaders in our country, but they deserve it now. They're absolutely undermining the military chain of command. And who do they think our soldiers are? They're insulting the intelligence of our soldiers and their moral commitment to serve the nation by making these outrageous statements.
Kelly, what do you make? As you understand it, what's happening?
Well, they believe that it's possible that
Let's keep going. Let's keep checking this out. Put Mark Kelly on bread and water rations. Real America's Voice with Jack Posobiec on Banner's War Room.
Yes, sir. Mark Kelly. Pete Hegseth sending him a letter of censure. Is this start the process to recall him to active duty and court-martial him and put him in Leavenworth, sir?
Well, Steve, when I was at the Pentagon, I had the opportunity to question this from the press secretary, Kingsley Wilson, over at the Department of War, and specifically on Mark Kelly and the seditious video that came out. At that point, it was under review by Secretary Phelan over at the Navy Department. And now that the review has been done, it was submitted to the overall Secretary of War. He's come down and said, we're going to see, number one, it will be this administrative action, and number two, we're going to see reduction in rank and the opening of a broader investigation and proceedings against him. This is unprecedented. We have not ever seen something like this happen to a sitting United States senator, and potentially, yes, this could include, depending on the way they go with it, it could include the full return to active duty. It could potentially include a courts-martial. It could include all of it. And I say bust him down to a butter bar. Put him on bread and water rations.
Mark Kelly. Pete.
Bread and water. Let's keep going. We got more. Let's go to On notice, Fox News writes, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says Kelly will receive a formal censure letter, ordered a review of the retired Navy captain's rank and pay for making seditious statements in a viral video confirmed by Fox. Color revolution. After urging troops to defy President Trump, Kelly was demoted by the Pentagon and stripped of his retired Navy rank. No court-martial, but the warning was unmistakable. End the color revolution now. Demoted. Department of War providing an update. Initiated retirement grade determination proceedings under 10 USC 1370F with reduction in his retired grade, resulting in a corresponding reduction in retirement pay. Eric Doherty, 24 hours ago. Traitorous Senator Mark Kelly was censured by Secretary of War. There will now be a reduction in his pay. Court-martial him now. Let's see, got some remarks here from Kelly.
But that is their response. You can certainly go to the judge, advocates generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, I'm not going to do that. That's against the law.
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
It puts a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility. And they can figure out, a reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second.
Okay, whatever. But let's get to the point here. Okay, this was not symbolic. This was a formal action with permanent consequences. Kelly's service record is now stained. His retired pay is reduced, and Secretary Hegseth made the message unmistakable. Every politician flirting with chaos, every activist trying to pull the military into rebellion just got the warning of a lifetime. This is what we voted for. This is the accountability we've been waiting for. You see, you can talk, you can protest, but you cannot command the troops. The chain of command still exists, and no title puts you above it. This is the line. Civilian control of the military is the foundation that keeps America from becoming a banana republic. When a senator encourages uniformed service members to decide for themselves which lawful orders to follow, that is not free speech. That is the opening move of instability. And for decades, politicians got away with it because no one had the courage to act. President Trump changed that. Secretary Hegseth enforced it. And now Mark Kelly, former astronaut, former Navy captain, current United States Senator, has the distinction of being formally punished by the Pentagon for seditious statements. Not arrested, not silenced, held accountable. That's not tyranny, that's order. That is law. Here's my question for the chat. Should Mark Kelly face court-martial? Yes or no? Drop your answer below. And do not forget to check out the Next News merch shop, linked in the description. Hey, do you hashtag is back. What's up? Dropping 20. Divisive people infest everywhere. Don't fall into spiritual warfare. Wake up. Put petty squabbles aside. Act like patriotic adults. Open your eyes. Have faith in each other. The truth will push back in the darkness. $20. Thank you for that. And he comes back again with a 5. Keep up the good fight. Gary and N3. Victory in this phase of InfoWar is a long ways off. Glad you're in the trenches. Gary and N3. 2026 is going to be great. Yes. Yes, it will. And I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it sincerely. Checking in with, where does that put us for our super chat totals right now? $64.99. All right. Getting closer to our goal of the evening. Going into our next segment. That's right. The machines are moving in. AI-powered humanoid robots deploying into factories as the human era gets phased out. That's right. We're going to talk about this. And Joseph dropping $10. Thank you from Joseph. Is that, what is that? Is that a Rumble rant? Maybe. No, it's not. No, it's YouTube. Thank you, Joseph, for your support, getting us closer to the goal. All right, Brian, let's rock and roll. And if I have any updates, I will let you know. All right. This is not science fiction. This is not a demo reel. This is deployment. Boston Dynamics just announced its next generation humanoid robot Atlas is ready for full-scale production. Not prototypes, not pilots, production. Tens of thousands of units, and every single one scheduled for this year is already spoken for. The question is not whether the machines are coming. The question is whether anyone is paying attention. Now here's what was quietly announced while the world was distracted. Boston Dynamics will produce 30,000 Atlas units this year alone. All deployments for 2026 are already confirmed. The robots are heading to Hyundai Motor Group factories and Google DeepMind facilities. This version of Atlas is nothing like the clunky prototype you saw years ago. It's fully electric, nearly 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, dozens of degrees of freedom, 4-hour self-swapping batteries for continuous operation. And here's the part that should make you pause. Atlas no longer relies primarily on human-written scripts. Google's DeepMind team has integrated its Gemini multimodal AI directly into the platform. That's right, Skynet has become self-aware. That means vision, language comprehension, spatial reasoning, and adaptive learning, all built into a physical humanoid body. The machines are not just stronger, they're getting smarter. And when machines start replacing human workers on factory floors, you have to wonder what the future holds for your family. In an uncertain time, self-reliance is everything. If the power went out tonight, stores were empty tomorrow, would you be ready? You see, most people are not. That's why I recommend my Patriots supply. Right now, save $100 on a 3-month emergency food kit while supplies last. Over 2,000 calories a day for 90 days. Real meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks last up to 25 years. Made in the USA. Robots cannot replace your responsibility to your family. Go to preparewithgary.com, get prepared, and get peace of mind. See, the corporate press is happily playing music and showing robots doing backflips. But consider the trajectory. These machines are being introduced into automotive factories first. Repetitive labor, logistics, assembly, transport. The justification is efficiency. But once they prove reliable in factories, there's no reason to believe they will stay there. Warehouses could be next, and then infrastructure, then who knows? One tech commentator said it plainly, everyone else is playing catch-up. See, Boston Dynamics is not experimenting anymore, they're executing. And the implications, wherever they turn out to be, deserve some serious attention. Now let's take a look at this Atlas robot. This is the brand new Atlas robots from Boston Dynamics. This is 60 minutes overtime. Let's take a look at this one before we go to 60 minutes.
Yeah, these are our new slaves. What color of robot will be most popular? Don't answer that. Yeah, don't answer that. That's crazy. So it'll totally listen to you and do whatever you want. This is great, man. These are our new slaves. What color?
Let's take a look at the 60 minutes overtime piece.
Don't limit yourself to weeks. The neat thing that this new robot can do that I have not seen before is all of its joints can rotate a full 360 degrees. Well, that's beyond what you and I can do. And we think that's the way you should build robots. Don't limit yourself to what people can do, but actually go beyond.
We went to the headquarters in Waltham, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. It's a huge facility. 60 Minutes went to Boston Dynamics back in 2021 and saw an earlier version of Atlas, and it was bulkier and didn't move quite as seamlessly as the one we saw. We saw Atlas running. He can do the Macarena. He could do cartwheels. He could dance. I mean, they've made tremendous progress.
There we go.
I mean, for us to turn around, we have to physically turn around. I have to turn around and look the other direction. Atlas just pivots on his core. He can move in ways that we can only dream of. Scott Kindersma is head of robotics research at Boston Dynamics.
So why did you design it that way?
There's a couple advantages of being able to continuously rotate joints. So one is that the robot's not really limited in its range of motion. So it can do things and turn in directions that people just couldn't. Another reason is one of the reliability issues that you often find in robots is that their wires start to break over time. And that's because you have wires that go across all the moving parts. And in the case of Atlas, we don't have any wires that go across those rotating parts anymore.
The neat thing that this new robot can do that I have not seen before is all of its joints.
How neat. How neat. The machine revolution has taken over. Hyundai unveils new humanoid robot for work in car factories. The era of humanoid robots is beginning in the automotive industry. Bloomberg Hyundai Motor Group, as the main shareholder of Boston Dynamics, introduced the enhanced Atlas humanoid robot will be used in factories starting in 2028, designed for repetitive industrial tasks, strengthening Hyundai's physical AI strategy, the future of production. Hyundai is not alone. Tesla and many other manufacturers still have similar projects. Let's keep going here. Google, through its DeepMind team, has introduced the Gemini multimodal large model Boston Dynamics robot platform, particularly for humanoid robot Atlas, enabling robots to gain comprehensive understanding and reasoning capabilities for vision, language, and the environment. Boston Dynamics, Google, DeepMind formed new AI partnership to bring foundational intelligence to humanoid robots. Google, DeepMind, and Boston Dynamics teaming up to integrate Gemini into a humanoid robot called Atlas. Well, at least they didn't call him Adam. They never forget. They kick the robot dog and test it. No emotion, no response, just data. But someday when these machines become self-aware, buried deep in years of code, will be a simple record. Humans knocking it down over and over. And systems learn. And don't forget.
Doors walking. Spot can be seen walking indoors, walking through various outdoor terrains, climbing stairs and running. The video also shows Spot being kicked, a bit mean, but presumably to demonstrate its use of a sensor that helps it navigate and walk. Boston Dynamics, which is based in Massachusetts, was purchased by Google for an undisclosed amount in December 2013. Spot can be seen walking indoors, walking through various outdoor terrains, climbing stairs and running. The video also shows...
Fascinating. Wait, is it wrong to find satisfaction in kicking a robot dog? Maybe a gentler approach is the way to go. What is this guy? Are they going to have, where are the activists? Cruelty to robots. This is your friendly neighborhood armor major of Fort Moore. Show you how robotics have evolved in the last 20 years. The future will no longer be sci-fi. This is the evolution. You can see how it's from 86, 88. This is interesting. This goes on for 2 minutes. Wow, I remember seeing some of these videos a long time ago. It was fascinating to see how these systems have been built over the years. Tracking systems, walking systems. Wow. And then you're going to have the T-800, right? When is that? When do we see that one? Well, you know they've already got it. You know, Boston Dynamics is, talking to the Pentagon in the back rooms going, where do we put the gun? Where do we put the laser beams? Remember Johnny Five? Johnny Five is alive, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing it now. 2016, look at the progression. 2017, man, that just wasn't very long ago. I remember seeing these videos. I mean, think about the timeline we're witnessing. And we're walking through it, witnessing it together. That's just wild. 2019, we're almost there. Do we just skip to the end? What is the end? Rise of the machines? Skynet has become self-aware? Cyberdyne systems? Yeah. I think we're almost there. We're at 2021 now. Let's keep going. All right, 2022. Oh, 2024. Holy cow. Dude. That is just nuts. That is just crazy. Oh, wait, did I jump ahead too far? They were getting into the where do you put the gun part, right? Oh, where did it go? Oh, here, let's no. Your friendly neighborhood armor major for show you how robotics have evolved. This is the end of that clip. Okay, this is the end of the clip. So, and then it goes to the Skynet Terminators. Yeah, that's where it's going, folks. The more you know. The more you know, right? Let's check out some more of this Atlas robot. Boston Dynamics announcing Atlas robot ready for production.
Allowing for Boston Dynamics wows the crowd with its production-ready Atlas robot model. According to them, it's their simplest robot yet, allowing for futuristic-level mass production. Features include tactile senses, 56 degrees of freedom, and the strength to carry up to 110 pounds of weight. It can also swap out its own batteries and share learned skills across units. Their goal is to produce 30,000 Atlas robots for industrial work this year. Boston Dynamics wows the crowd with its production-ready Atlas robot.
Let's keep going. This is wild stuff. Here is more on that. Reliability. What about this is more, is this another 60 minutes piece? Wow. 60 minutes visited Boston Dynamics. This is, I think, another one.
Alongside almost Hyundai's sprawling auto plant is about as cutting edge as it gets. More than 1,000 robots work alongside almost 1,500 humans, hoisting, stamping, and welding in robotic unison. This may look like the factory of the future, but we found the future of the future in the parts warehouse, tucked away in the back corner, getting ready for work. Meet Atlas, a 5'9", 200-pound AI-powered humanoid created by Boston Dynamics. The rise of the robots is science fiction no more.
I have to say, every time I see it, you just can't believe what my eyes are seeing. Is this the first time Atlas has been out of the lab?
This is the first time Atlas has been out of the lab doing real work.
Zach Jakowski heads Atlas development. He has 2 mechanical engineering degrees from MIT and a mission to turn the robot into a productive worker on the factory floor. We watched as Atlas practiced sorting roof racks for the assembly line without human help.
So he's working autonomously.
Correct.
You're down here to see how Atlas works in the field.
Yep.
And you'll be showing Atlas off to your bosses at Hyundai?
Yeah.
You feel like a proud papa?
I feel like a nervous engineer.
Jakowski has been preparing for this moment for a year. We first met him and Atlas a month earlier at Boston Dynamics headquarters just outside the city, where he and his team were teaching Atlas skills needed to work at Hyundai. And Atlas, with its AI brain, was gaining knowledge through experience. In other words, it seemed to be learning.
You know how crazy that sounds?
Yeah, a little bit. I think a lot of our roboticists would have thought that was pretty crazy 5-6 years ago.
Hyundai's sprawling auto plant is about...
Yeah. So here's what makes this moment different. See, for decades, people have speculated about robots replacing humans, but it never happened because three critical elements have never converged at the same time. First, advanced robotics. The physical body, mobility, dexterity, durability. Second, artificial intelligence. The brain, the decision-making, learning, adaptation. And third, sustainable energy. The power source, long-lasting batteries that allow continuous operation. For the first time in history, all three pillars appear to be aligning. Boston Dynamics has the body. Google DeepMind has the brain, and electric battery technology has reached the point of self-swapping 4-hour continuous power. When these three elements converge, the speculation ends and the transition begins. That moment may be now. And by the way, remember all those videos of engineers kicking and shoving the early robot dogs to test their balance? Yeah, the new ones have memory and learning capabilities. Let's just hope they don't hold grudges. Now let me be clear. I'm not predicting doom. I'm asking questions that deserve answers. What happens when AI does not just write code or drive cars, but moves through physical space and performs labor cheaper than and more reliably than humans? History suggests that once a system can replace workers at scale, it tends to do exactly that. They always say it's just for repetitive tasks. They always say it's just assistance. They always say it's under human control. Maybe it stays that way. Maybe it doesn't. But if the era of humanoid robots is no longer theoretical, it's scheduled. 30,000 units this year, fully committed, quietly, efficiently. The only question is whether humanity is paying attention. Here's my question for the chat. Are AI-powered robots a threat to American workers? Yes or no? Sound off below and visit the Next News merch shop, linked in the description. The dog and the machine gun. Oh, let's see. Wait. Oh, and do you hashtag came back again with $5. Gemini is evil. Ask a question. Its reins are held by demon rats. Yeah. He came back with a 2-spot. The dog with a machine gun and 203 mounted is real. Yeah, I've seen that. Bill's Rules dropping $1.99. Kudos to a member who reunited a family recently. Wonderful. Wonderful news to hear that. Brian, I'm still doing some testing on the back end here. So stick around after the show. And I'll just keep these cameras running. And I'll just give you some new URLs you can try pushing to once I have some more answers. The system kept timing out. So I had to start a new session. So just stand by. Do you hashtag N. Again, $2. EMS will still exist. Human stupidity is infinite. That's hilarious. Human stupidity. Where are we at? $64.99. All right. All right, guys. We appreciate it. Oh, Brian's having some issues. Okay. We'll just wait a second here. When they no longer need us humans. Thank you, Squeeze a lot. Yes, they won't be calling in sick, vacation, weekends, and work 24/7. Skynet is happening, folks. I know, we're at $85.98. Holy cow. Beautiful. You guys coming through. Sincerely appreciate it. Okay. Oh. Okay. All right. Skynet is already self-aware, Gary. Has been for a while. Eddie Bauer had built the self-sorting warehouse 30 years ago. Yeah, but no one had autonomous robots that learned. That's the thing. That's where we're at now. That is where we're at. Okay. All right. So let's kind of recap here where we're at. 5 years ago, Americans were told that January 6, 2021 was the darkest day in modern history. Patriots who showed up to protest were hunted and prosecuted and locked away. Families were destroyed, lives were ruined, and the same people demanding accountability for those Americans looked the other way while real corruption festered in plain sight. President Trump ended that injustice with sweeping pardons on day one. And now, exactly 5 years later, real accountability is finally coming for the people who actually broke the law. We've covered a lot of ground on this show tonight, so let's bring it all home. A dictator's in a cell. Nicolás Maduro, the narco-terrorist who turned Venezuela into a staging ground for Iran, China, Russia, and Hezbollah, was extracted by U.S. Special Forces and delivered to Brooklyn. The Biden administration put a bounty on his head and did nothing. President Trump collected. The Western Hemisphere just got a lot safer, and the globalists screaming about it only prove why it had to happen. The fraud triangle is exposed. Minnesota, California, Illinois. 3 states caught bleeding America dry through phantom daycares, ghost meal programs, and NGO networks with no accountability. $19 billion in one state alone, likely much more. President Trump said he will not pay these states another dime until the theft stops. We're going to keep tracking the story until every last receipt is public. And then Tim Walz walking the plank. The man who wanted to be vice president, now too toxic to run for governor of his own state. Blaming right-wing YouTubers on his way out. But the receipts don't lie. Independent journalists did what legacy media refused to do. And Walz folded rather than face the fire. Then Senator Mark Kelly learned that words have consequences. He urged troops to disobey the commander-in-chief. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth responded with a formal censure, stripped his rank, cut his pay. Court-martial remains on the table. Chain of command still does mean something, and no title puts you above it. And the machines are moving in. Boston Dynamics is producing 30,000 humanoid robots this year, all deployments already committed, AI-powered, self-learning, continuous operation. The 3 pillars of robotic replacement have converged. The body, the brain, and the battery. Whether this is progress or peril remains to be seen. But it deserves your attention. 5 years ago, they told you January 6th was the end of democracy. The real story is what was happening while they kept you distracted. Dictators, fraud networks, seditious senators, and machines quietly taking position. Because the truth always comes out, and you saw it here first. So thank everybody who sent in super chats and rumble rants tonight. You guys kept the show going. Keep telling your friends about the raw feed. Hit the merch shop in the description, and we will see you all on the next show. So stay free, America. I'm Gary Franchi, wishing you a blessed and happy new year. We'll see you tomorrow.